everyone, and welcome back to Stamp with Anna. And today is the third day of the Valentine's box in a card series that I was running this week. And today's card is going to take the same design, the same basic design, and we're going to put it on a vertical card instead of a horizontal card. On Monday we made this one, which is your your most common one, where you have the box off to the right of the card and you have this large strip of paper here and this thinner strip of paper here with your box off to the right. Then on Wednesday we made a variation where we put the box in the center of the card, and instead of having two strips on either side, we have one whole strip, one whole piece of designer series paper, which gives it it's a different look. And again, this was in the center of the card. And today we're going to make this, the box again is going to be in the center of the card, but the card is going to be vertical, and I'll show you how to find the measurements for that. So what we need for paper is, we have a piece of real red cardstock, and this is cut at 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. I have a piece of designer series paper, and this comes from a retired pack from a few years back, and it is called Stacked with Love, and it's got some pretty flowers in it, pretty hearts in it, and there is Calypso Coral is in there, and the real red, so I'm picking up on the Calypso Coral. Then for our box, the box bottom is a piece of Calypso Coral, which is 6 1/2 by 6 1/2. The box top is a piece of Calypso Coral, which is 3 1/8 by 3 1/8. Then we also have 5 little pieces of a coordinating cardstock. These are 1 7/8 by 1 7/8, and we need 5 of those. And I have a little ribbon made out of Calypso Coral seam binding, and I have some scrap paper, Whisper White, Calypso Coral, and Real Red. For stamp sets, we're going to use the Teeny Tiny Wishes, and as I've been saying all week, if there's one stamp set that I can encourage you to purchase, it is Teeny Tiny Wishes. There's a sentiment in here for almost every occasion you can think of, and they're small enough so they fit beautifully. You can tuck them in anywhere, on a tag, on a banner, they just fit beautifully. And for dies or thinlets, framelets, whatever you like to call them, we're going to use the layering oval set. We're going to use 2 of the flat ones, the straight edge ones, and 1 of the scalloped ones. And this is also a great investment. This framelit set comes with 15, all varying sizes, so you can layer them beautifully. So let's get started with our project. The first thing we're going to do is figure out where to make the cuts on our paper. And again, we're centering the box. So this is 4 1/4 inches. We know that. Our box is 2 inches. So if you have 4 1/4 minus 2, you now have 2 1/4. 2 1/4 divided by 2, because we want the same amount on either side, we're going to center it. 2 1/4 divided by 2 is 1 1/8. So we know that our cut line needs to be 1 1/8 inch on either side. Again, 4 1/4 minus 2, which represents the width of the box, is 2 1/4. 2 1/4 divided by 2, which represents 2 equal sides, is 1 1/8. So therefore our cuts need to come in 1 1/8 from either side. So I'm going to bring in my Stampin' trimmer, and I'm going to place my paper with the folded side along the top, so the short side is along the top, and I'm going to come in 1 1/8. See the 1/8 mark right there? 1 1/8. Now I know my box is a 2 by 2 box, so I'm going to take my blade and come down to the 2. Now I am going through 2 layers of Stampin' Up! Cardstock, which is thick, 80 pound. So I have to press quite a bit. Alright, so there's my first cut. Now my box, like I said, is 2 inches wide. So I'm going to take my score line here, my cut line here, and bring that over to the 2. Okay, so now I know that I'm going to be cutting making another cut, and that's going to leave me a 2-inch gap. So again, I'm going to bring my blade down to the 2. Okay, now I'm going to turn my card 90 degrees, and I'm going to have the folded edge to the left, and I'm going to line my card up at 2. Again, 2, because my box is a 2 by 2 inch square box. So I'm going to bring my blade to that first slice mark and come down to the other one. And when I lift this up, this should pop right out, but because you went through 2 pieces of cardstock, it might not. If it doesn't, you just give it a little hand with the snips. And there is our perfectly centered square. Now, if we did our calculations right, each one of these is going to be 1 1/8. So let me find my ruler. And I have 1 1/8 on that side, and I have 1 1/8 on that side. Success, I'd say. So there is that. Now we're going to come in with our designer series paper, and I'm going to just place that where I want it with my border even, and I'm going to flip this over. You can use some repositionable tape to hold that down while you flip it over, but I didn't think I needed to. So with the pencil, I'm going to trace that square. And with my snips, I'm going to come on the outside of that and just cut. You can use your scoreboard for that, your paper trimmer, but it's small enough that even I, who can't cut a straight line, can probably make it work. So there's that. Now I'm going to attach that with some snail to the front of my card. And make sure that you put enough adhesive on your square, and you do want to put adhesive on the bottom of your cut window. And now you're going to line this up and make sure that it is evenly spaced around your card, and then turn it over. And if you see anything sticking out like that with your snips, just trim that out. Okay, there we go. There's the front of our card. So far so good. We're going to put that aside. Now we're going to make our box. And again, our box is made with a 6x6 piece of Calypso coral. And again, our box is 2 inches, so we're going to do all of our scoring at 2 inches. I'm going to line my paper up at 2. I'm going to score. Turn it 90 degrees. Line my paper up at 2 and score. Turn it 90 degrees. Line my paper up at 2 and score. Turn it 90 degrees. Line my paper up at 2 and score. Now with my snips, first I'm going to fold over all of my crease marks. With my snips, I'm going to come up on that crease line, and I'm going to cut right up to that first horizontal score. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Right on the crease line, up to the top, and score. Now what I'm going to do to make nice clean edges is I'm going to just taper this edge off. Just make it a little wedge in there on either one of these. And Making this little wedge will ensure that my box is nice and neat when I fold it over. And I'm also going to just cut off a tiny bit along this edge, the top edge of each of these tabs, so that when I fold my box over, nothing sticks out on this side. See? There's nothing overhanging on the top, and there's nothing sticking out on the side. So that makes for a nice clean look. Now I'm going to do the same on the bottom. I'm going to cut up on that score line, and then I'm going to wedge each end. I'm going to cut up on that score line, and I'm going to cut a wedge. The wedge doesn't have to be that thick, just a small one. And then I'm going to trim just a tiny bit off the tops. Now here's my card, my box, excuse me. Now I want to attach my pieces of paper, and again I want my diagonals, I used diagonals the other day as well, I want my diagonals all to be going in the right direction. So you can put these down before you put the box together. Just give it a dry fit so that you know that everything is going in the right direction. But because these pieces are so small, I prefer to put my box together and then just drop those in. So in order to put the box together with our snail, we're going to put some snail along the top of each tab, and then as well as right here along that score line. I'm going to do that to all four. And then when we put the box together, we're going to bring the tab in, I'm going to line it up so it makes a nice square. I'm going to press, and we'll do the same for the other side. Now I'm going to take my designer series paper. I'm going to put some snail on all sides, and I'm going to put it on my box, on one of the squares. There it is, nice and centered. I'm going to take another piece and do the same thing. Now I want to make sure that my diagonals are going the right direction. See how these red stripes are going from, looking top down, they're going from right to left. If I put this piece this way, they're going left to right. I don't want that. I want to make sure that they're going in the right direction, in the same direction. So I'm going to double check that and then put my paper on. I'm going to do that again. And again, making sure that my stripes are going in the right direction, the same direction as the previous one. Okay, and then the last one here. Here are my stripes going that direction, and here is that. And my box bottom is done. And you can see nice neat edges, nice tapered edge. I'm going to put that aside. Now I'm going to make my box top. And I'm using a piece of Calypso Coral, which is cut at 3 1/8 by 3 1/8, and I'm going to make it the same way I made the box bottom, except I'm going to score it 1/2. So score it 1/2, turn it 90 degrees, score it 1/2, turn it 90 degrees, score it 1/2, turn it 90 degrees, and score at 1/2. And now I'm going to fold along my score lines. And with my snips, I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the box. I'm going to come up, cut on that score line up to the first horizontal one, and I'm going to snip wedge the sides. Same on this one. What I don't have to do on the box top is cut any along here, because when I fold this in, there's no risk of this tab sticking out because it's so much smaller. than the middle section. So now I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to cut up on that, wedge my edges, and on this last one here, do the same. Now, if you've been watching all of my videos, you're so tired of hearing me say the same thing. However, those of you who haven't seen the other ones, when you're putting this together, I strongly suggest that you do not use a glue dot. If you put a glue dot here and go attach this, just where that glue dot is what's going to be attached. So you're going to end up with something that looks like this, and that's not really attractive. You can use fast fuse, snail, liquid glue, fine tip glue, but just as long as you can get the whole tab covered in adhesive so that the whole tab sticks down. I'm going to use snail, and I'm going to cover that whole tab. My snail's running out, and it is a small tab, so you do want to be gentle. You don't want to rip it. And then I'm going to fold this over and press, making a nice clean 90-degree angle on my box. And there's the last one. Now I have my 5th piece of striped designer series paper, and again I want to make sure that my stripes are going in the same direction. And I'm going to center that in my box. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but I didn't have enough of this paper to make my tab. So I took 2 scraps and I seamed them together. That's why the back of this paper was white when I was putting the adhesive on, but you can barely tell. And that pops right on there. Nice snug fit. I've made a bow using the Calypso Coral seam binding, and it's retired, I know, but it still works for me. And you can attach this with fine tip glue, Tombow glue, a glue dot, whatever you'd like. I'm going to use some Tombow, and I'm going to just put a little dab in the middle. Don't need too much, and I'm just going to pop my bow in there. I'm going to hold on to that for just a second, and then I'm going to put it aside to dry while I do my stamping. So now I have my scrap piece of Whisper White, Calypso Coral, and Real Red. Using the Happy Valentine's Day stamp from the Teeny Tiny Wishes, I'm going to ink that up in Real Red, and I'm going to stamp. Now I'm going to go die cut. This little Valentine's Day greeting is going to be cut out with the smaller oval. Calypso Coral is going to be cut out with the next size straight edge oval, and the Real Red is going to be cut out with the scalloped oval. I'm going to go run these through with the Big Shot. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back with all my pieces. Now I'm just going to layer these up on each other. The Happy Valentine's Day on white is layered onto the Calypso Coral. Let me just center that. And then that is centered, matted, layered onto the scalloped Real Red. And then that is attached to my card front. Right about center. Okay, now I'm going to take my little box and I'm going to drop it in. And when I drop it in, I'm going to make sure that the bottom rests right on that cutout, the cutout on the bottom. Now when you put it together, if you see that it's buckling on the side here, that means you just need to trim a tiny bit of paper away. So here it is. I took my box out, and I'm going to come in with my snips, and I'm just going to trim a tiny bit. You don't want to trim too much. If you trim too much, then your box won't sit securely. I'll just clean that edge up just a bit. Want a nice clean corner. Okay, and try this again then. I drop my box in. Now it is tighter where the cover is, because the cover has extra paper on that. It's an extra layer. And now when it sits in there, look on the side, and a good fit is a straight A-line. See how that's a straight A-line? Turn it over, and a good fit is a straight A-line. And there is our third and final Valentine's Day card in a box. I do hope that you've enjoyed these, and you enjoyed seeing how you can change the decoration up a little bit just by moving the placement of the box. If you have any questions at all about any of these projects or any of the products that were used, please contact me through my blog, www.stampwithanna.blogspot.com. And while you're at my website, I do encourage you to click on the tab along the top that says subscribe to my newsletter. And what that is when you subscribe, you will receive a weekly newsletter from me, which contains links to all of my blog posts for the prior week. I usually post on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, so if you've missed any of my projects on YouTube, you can connect directly to the projects from my newsletter. I also include any specials that are coming up from Stampin' Up!, any breaking news about promotions that they're having, as well as occasionally I do run contests just for my newsletter subscribers. So it's a good thing if you subscribe to my newsletter. If you have any questions at all, certainly let me know. I'll be glad to help. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you back here next week.